James Martin versus the State of Kerala. Case summary and analysis. The importance of the case. The case highlights the limits of the right to private defense. When an individual or their property faces a serious threat due to unlawful violence, it is justified to exercise the right of private defense, even if it results in causing death. This principle sets a legal precedent and remains relevant in today's context. Case overview. Bharat Bandh on 15 March 1988 was called by political parties, leading to a few incidents in Cheranellur area of Kochi. The main accused were James and his father Xavier. They owned a flour mill and a bread factory. The event occurred at around 2:30 p.m. on 15 March 1988. 5 men, including the 2 deceased, Mohan and Bashir, along with 3 other men, were Bandh activists. The group entered the flour mill of Xavier, located in a property with a residential building, bread factory, and other structures belonging to Xavier. The group entered the mill after learning that the flour mill was operating during the Bandh and demanded that prosecution witness number 15, an employee of the mill, shut it down. An argument ensued between the activists and the employee. James and Xavier, who were inside their residence, heard the commotion and rushed out, directing the activists to leave. Xavier instructed James to lock the compound gate from inside. They both returned to the house, with Xavier instructing James to retrieve a gun and shoot the activists. James, instigated by Xavier, fired at the Bandh activists through a window, hitting Bashir, who fell near the gate. Despite pleas from the others, James fired again, injuring several more. Passers-by and residents near the scene also sustained injuries from the gunfire. A crowd gathered, scaled the gate, and took the injured to the hospital. Mohanan died en route. Bashir succumbed to his injuries later in the hospital. Enraged by the shooting, a mob set fire to Xavier's property, including the residential building, flour mill, bread factory, and vehicles parked nearby. Both James and Xavier, along with their employee, fled the scene and sought refuge in a nearby house. Section 96 of IPC states that nothing is an offense if done in private defense. Section 100 of IPC allows causing death if there is a reasonable apprehension of death or grievous hurt.
The prosecution claimed that the accused acted out of animosity and opened fire indiscriminately, causing deaths and injuries. The Bandh activists were peacefully protesting and demanded closure of the mill.
The defense claimed that the accused had acted in self-defense after being attacked by an aggressive mob. They argued that the Bandh activists had unlawfully entered their property, assaulted an employee, and threatened them, forcing the accused to act.
The trial court found that the Bandh activists had unlawfully entered the accused's property and used violence. However, it concluded that the accused had exceeded their right to private defense. The High Court endorsed the trial court's findings about exceeding the right of private defense. The accused persons James Martin and Xavier appealed to the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court held that the accused faced an imminent and persistent threat to life and property. The threat involved acts of vandalism and the use of explosives, although the exact timing, before or after the shooting, was not confirmed by the High Court. The Supreme Court further held that prosecution witness number 15, who is an employee of the mill and a victim of the violence, has provided crucial testimony. However, the High Court assumed that he was sympathetic towards the accused, despite there being no evidence to support this. The Supreme Court further held that the trial court had found that the accused faced a violent and unlawful situation involving Bandh activists. These activists forcefully entered the accused's property, assaulted an employee and created chaos. The trial court had acknowledged the need for self-defense by the accused in such circumstances. The apex court held that both the trial court and the high court agreed that the accused acted in self-defense. Moreover, given the intensity of the threat, expecting the accused to stay calm was considered unreasonable. The Supreme Court concluded that the accused's actions were within reasonable limits of self-defense under Section 96 of the Indian Penal Code. The conviction and sentence were set aside. The appeal was allowed, and the accused's bail bonds were discharged.
Thanks for watching.